In the latest episode of 90 Day Fiance, we got two weddings, a meltdown, a goodbye, and one person possibly getting left at the altar. Let's get into it. Guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. Can you believe that we are almost at the end of the season? I think there's this episode, the next one, and then we're at the tell-all. I'm really excited to see where these couples end up, so let me give you a little recap. But before we get into that, please do make sure to like, subscribe, share, do all the YouTube things. It really helps me a lot. And thank you again for watching. But let's jump into it. Let's go to Jasmine and GINO. It's their wedding day, and nothing says a wedding day for GINO like having two hats. If his commitment to hats says anything about his commitment level, I think him and Jasmine will be fine. Not gonna lie, you guys, GINO's happiness is like coming out of his pores, and it made me a little emotional. He was just so happy that his family was around him and that this day was finally happening. And then we see Jasmine getting her makeup done and she looks so beautiful. But I was sad because I was like, why is she just with the makeup artist? But the makeup artist did a really good job in keeping her spirits high. Truly the best hype man. And when she puts the veil on Jasmine, I was like, wow, she looks like a bride. And Jasmine is overcome with emotion and she decides to give a call to her sister. And so obviously the sight of her sister makes this day very real for her, you know? She's like, of course I'm going to marry the man of my dreams, but my family, who I'm very close to, who are a huge part of me, cannot be here. And her sister was doing her best to be like, don't worry about it, don't cry, it's your day. But Jasmine was just like, you would have been my maid of honor, and it was so heartbreaking. And I really do hope that they get to have a small ceremony in Panama so that her family and her kids can be a part of it. But Jasmine isn't alone for too long because then Michelle comes over. That's like her bestie in GINO's family. And she starts taking pictures of her in her wedding dress. And it's really a beautiful sight. Her beauty almost makes you forget that she's half psychotic. So anyway, the ceremony's about to begin, and you guys, when they zoom in on Coco with his little tux, I'm a sucker for dogs and little human clothes, and it's just so cute. And then we see GINO FaceTiming or zooming in Jasmine's family, and I just thought that was so thoughtful. I love when people do things like that. And we see Jasmine getting ready to walk the aisle, and she's being walked by Uncle Marco, and Uncle Marco is obviously GINO's uncle, but also a huge father figure to him. And Jasmine was letting Uncle Marco know that this is very special to her, that she appreciates him doing this, that, you know, she doesn't really have a father figure, and this is a very significant moment for her. And she starts crying, he starts crying, and it's really nice to see her bonding with his family in this way. And she walks down the aisle and she looks like a dream, and they read their vows, and at this point I was weeping with them. We have seen them in their most tumultuous moments, and I honestly just didn't think that we would ever get to see them get married. And obviously getting married doesn't fix those things, but there's just something so beautiful about weddings. At the reception, they're thanking everyone for being there, and Jasmine is thanking them all for letting her be a part of their family. At this point, they all look like they're in cahoots with each other. And then Jasmine is like, and we have something to say. And then GINO's like, And it's ultimately that they want to start working on having a child of their own. And I thought she was already pregnant, the way that they were hyping up this announcement. But still, I can't believe we may have a little Jasmine and GINO out in the world. And if you guys follow Jasmine on social media, she's been making posts suggesting that she's currently pregnant. And I don't know if she's just a marketing genius and doing that because this episode was going to come out, that she was maybe like teasing people, but she's been like taking pictures and like being like, oh, I'm full for my baby, or making comments like that. So who knows? But I will end their segment with this. When they were taking their wedding portraits, Jasmine's like, GINO, baby, can we take one picture without your hat? And GINO at first is like, no, that's not happening. But he ultimately gives in and takes off his hat. And GINO is not an ugly man. And I wish that he would just own being a bald guy because it looks so good. Those hats make him dweebier. He looks so good. I just wish he would let go of that patch. But Jasmine gets a few photos in without his hat, and we leave them on a high note. On to the next couple is Clayton and ANALI, and things are still sour from their big stripper blowout. As you recall, ANALI had told Clayton about the stripper for her bachelorette party. He was very upset about it and then was insisting that she tell him all the details about it, whether the stripper touched her, whether they talked, all those things. And apparently this is a cycle in their relationship where Clayton has a hard time letting things go. And ANALI has been, overwhelmed with this process and the toll that this process has taken on their relationship. So that was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back. And she decided to sleep apart that evening. ANALI decides to call her mom the next day to seek her counsel. And of course, she's like, ultimately, I'm the one that decides what I do. And her mom, was empathetic, but she was like, are you really going to throw away a 2-year relationship? Couples argue. ANALI, though, is very scared that this is what her life with Clayton is going to be, that he won't let things go and he'll always be so critical of all the things that she does. In the other room, Clayton and his guinea pigs are stressed. He sends ANALI this voice note that is very loving, and it almost acts like nothing happened, which I don't think she's going to receive well, but I understand why he sent it. He was just trying to have some closeness with her before they, make it to the altar. He didn't want the last moment before the altar to be a fight. So I completely get that. I just don't think that that's where she's at. He meets up with his bestie Cameron, and they're going to the wedding venue to make sure that everything is okay. And there's a seat reserved for Clayton's brother who has passed. He passed unexpectedly about 5 years ago in a car accident. And obviously, with all the emotions that are going on, grief crept in for Clayton in this moment. He starts crying because obviously he would have wanted his brother at his wedding. And as he's talking to Cameron, he's like, I mean, I don't even know if this wedding is going to happen. Like, she opened my message, but she hasn't said anything. And even though ANALI didn't write to Clayton, apparently ANALI's mom wrote to Clayton, and she was just telling him that she knows of, what happened with their fight. But I don't know if that's all she said or if Clayton didn't read it out loud. I'm saying that he got that message didn't really lead into anything. If anything, it's stressing him out more. And so it's time for the wedding, and they're all waiting at the altar, and it's like 23 minutes late, and his sister is like, oh, it's 23 minutes past of time. And Clayton is like, I know that. He just hates when his sister breathes. I don't know. I don't have a relationship with my brother, so I think it's so, they're just so tense. She wasn't saying anything badly. If anything, she was crying when she was speaking to the producers because she's like, I don't want my brother to be disappointed. And I don't, I think that a part of her knows that if ANALI doesn't show up, Clayton is going to find a way to blame his sister because she was the one that threw the bachelorette party. But obviously, I think that if ANALI doesn't show up to the altar, it's for a culmination of things, not the fun that she had at a bachelorette party. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's 30 minutes late. ANALI still hasn't showed up. When they pan to her, she's in the room and she's like, I don't really know what to do. I mean, I can always go back to Peru. My friends, my family are there. I have a job. So they're really teasing this like she may not show up, and they keep panning to her luggage. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with this in the next episode. Left it as a cliffhanger, so I'm really looking forward to seeing where that ends in the next episode. So they're going to get married or she's going to go back home. But let's move on to the next couple, CITRA and Sam. CITRA and Sam have gotten married in Islam, and now they have 2 hours to prep for their Western wedding. And so they're back at the house trying to get things together, and CITRA's sister is like, can you explain to me what an American wedding would be like? And so Sam explains it, and he gets to the part of like the priest, and CITRA said is like, a priest? I don't want a priest or anyone reading something that's not from the Quran. Apparently they did ask someone from the temple to be the officiant, but he was already booked. So this was the best that they could do. And Citra's father is like, I'm not allowing this unless it's basically a neutral or a Muslim officiant. Y'all, Sam's face was red as a tomato because he was like, I have 2 hours to figure this out. He's also terrified of Citra's dad. He's like, I'm already messing up with possibly going to jail. I cannot not marry her legally because then she's going to go back to Indonesia. So he's stressed. But in a wild turn of events, Sam found out that one of his brothers is ordained. So he goes to the yard where everyone is seated waiting for the wedding, and he pulls up to his brother and he's like, hey man, I'm gonna ask for a favor. Would you be able to do this even though you didn't prepare? And his brother's very gracious and is like, of course I'll do this for you and Citra. And when I saw this, I was like, I hope for everyone's sake that this part was scripted and that his brother was able to prepare something, because the stress level, I cannot. So then Sam goes to Citra's father and is like, okay, so this is the best option that I came up with, my brother. And the dad approves, thankfully. We see Citra ready for her wedding, and you guys, she looks like a Disney princess. She looks so beautiful, and her sister's reactions were just so pure. Her father sees her and he's getting choked up, and he's, telling her that like Sam figured it out and that he's agreeing with Sam. And Citra, you could tell that she values her father just so much. And she says it, she's like, he's my best friend, and he's especially been my best friend since my mom passed. I'm like, wow, this man is raising 3 girls by himself. No wonder they're just a unit. And Citra starts crying because obviously this is not how she dreamed to get married without her mother. It's time to get married, and she walks on the aisle, and Sam is literally like, wow, because she looks stunning, you guys. And Sam says, wow, and his mind is already racing about tonight, okay? He's been waiting for this moment. But before the wedding begins, Sam is like, I didn't have money when I proposed to you in Indonesia, so I need to do this right. And he pulls out a ring and proposes to her. And it's so sweet, but she's like, I'm already here. I think Citra is so funny because her reactions are just so raw. It's so like, babe, I'm in a wedding dress. Like, yes, I will marry you. And so they've been married in Islam, and they officially get married in the Western way. And they have their first kiss as husband and wife, and the first time that they're allowed to kiss in front of family. And it's such a moment. Also, I want to mention that the whole time of the wedding, they kept panning to Sam's mom, and she was very emotional and was just like, I think she was just stunned at Citra's beauty. But then they got to have a little chat after the wedding, and she's like, I wanted to go to the Islamic wedding, but grandma was sick. And Sam was like, are you sure about that? She's like, no, I wouldn't lie. And she swears to God. And I don't think Sam believes her, but he doesn't put too much on it. He's like just happy that she's there, and he's moving on. He has bigger things on the brain, okay? He is ready for his wedding night. We see him at one point carry Citra, and Citra's nervous because she's like, I know that this moment means a lot to him, and I don't know what to expect. And let's just say Sam is not being subtle, okay? The way that he carried her to that room, it was with haste, okay? So I'm excited to see the aftermath of that in the next episode. But let's move on to the next. Nikki and Justin. It's very quick with them. It's the day after the engagement party. We see Igor wearing a shirt that has Nikki on his back. You guys, his pants were so low that you could see his butt cheeks. And the way the shirt was positioned, it looked like his butt cheeks were her cleavage. Did you guys notice that? Nikki is very moved by this gesture. Apparently, they made love post-engagement, and so she's leaving on a high. Before they leave, Igor's mom stops by, and she gives, little trinkets and little gifts to Nikki, and just tells her that she hopes to see her soon. And Nikki's very moved because they've gone through so much. And she just feels lucky in her experience to have the acceptance of his family, his friends. And so she's like, we have to be able to work everything out because it's worth it. And that makes me a little sad because I'm just like, you are a prize too, Nikki. Like, don't let this man treat you like dirt because you're trans. Like that, like you still are worthy of all the things. I think for her, it's just, the love story of it all, the fact that they were together a decade ago, and there's just so much history. I understand why it would be hard to let that go. And we get to the airport, and Justin is saying that he drove slow because he wanted to savor every last minute and second with her. And you guys, Justin Igor gives me whiplash because he has these moments where he's so sweet and you really feel the love with them. And even like that moment with his mom, like those are the moments that make the relationship for me real. Like, okay, like they're not just playing around or wasting each other's time. But he's not this sweet person most of the time, as we've seen this season. So it's just hard because he's sweet like 30% of the time, but then 70% of the time he acts like he's repulsed by her. At least that's what we've seen on camera. So it's hard to really, as a viewer, take these moments seriously. But obviously Nikki is very moved. And they say their goodbyes and Nikki's just like, this doesn't get any easier. And I'm really curious what's gonna happen with these two because it sounds like he breaks up with her over text in the next episode. But then again, we've seen them have these huge fights and then make up right back. So I don't know. But next week looks crazy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where they end up in the tell-all because in the tell-all, that's when we get all the tea for real. But let's move on to the last couple, Sophie and Rob. So we see Sophie getting dropped off by Rob to a flower shop. Rob is like, yeah, I'm gonna drop you off and leave you be because your mother's gonna be there. And yeah, I don't want to be around her. So let's just say that things are very uncomfortable, particularly for Sophie. She feels like she's caught in the middle. And she learned from a last fight that even if she agrees with her mom, she has to back up Rob or it's going to be a never-ending fight. She also says that her and Rob are trying not to fight before the wedding. So the way that they're doing that is to avoid things, meaning I'm sure there's a bunch of things that are piling up that are going to blow up later. And I don't think that's very promising. The mom is also feeling away because she found out that Rob dropped off Sophie and didn't even say hi. She's like, see, like he doesn't have any respect for anyone. He doesn't have any courtesy. And Sophie is at her wit's end of being in the middle. She obviously loves her mother. She loves her fiance. But she's like, Mom, like you could be easier on him, you know? And she just tells her mom that like she's hoping that he changes after their wedding. And I'm just like, you've been together for 2 years. What you see is what you get. He's not going to change. Divorce is messy and expensive, and I wish I could save her, and I think that's exactly what her mom is feeling. But I remember being 23 and stupid and in love. And it's not like you don't respect or love your mother, but when you are at that age and your mother tells you something, you're like, there's something in your brain that's like, well, you can't control my life. And like, I know him better. And it makes you rebel against everything your parents are saying, even if a part of you knows that there's truth in what they're saying. So while I agree with the things that her mom is saying, it's almost safer to not say anything at all. Let her come to you. Because the more that you push on it, the more you're pushing her away and closer to the problem. And so the next time we see Rob and Sophie, they're packing up to go to Santa Barbara, which is where their wedding is going to be. They want to get there a day before. And Sophie's like, yeah, so my mom is going to stay with us tonight so she doesn't have to pay for a hotel room. And then she's going to Uber to Santa Barbara while we drive there. Because I guess, his car doesn't fit more people. And Rob has a stank attitude even before the mom gets there. He's like, yeah, she could stay here, but I don't want to hear any complaining. So when the mom walks in, Rob doesn't even say anything until the mom is like, hi, Rob. Mama is like, Thank you for letting me stay here. And he's not even trying to pretend that he wants her there. He's not trying to make her feel welcome. And he's like, yeah, you can stay here. We have the blow up mattress. It's no big deal. And she's like, I can tell that you don't want me here. And it's a bit awkward. Like, obviously, there's tension. And so it's getting a little heated. So the mom just ends up walking out to the courtyard and Sophie follows her. And so Mama's like, can you and I just go to a hotel? Can we just go to a hotel? And Sophie's like, no, I can't go to a hotel, Mom. I have to be here with my man who will have a pissy fit if I leave again. And the mom is like, ugh. And so the mama is pissed in the courtyard, and Rob decides that he's gonna soften up a little bit, and he starts blowing up the mattress, trying to make it ready for her for when she decides to walk in. And so all of a sudden, they hear him setting up the bed, and Sophie's like, he's blowing up the bed. That's that sound that we hear. And the mom is like, oh, so he does want me to stay here. Maybe I handled that wrong. Fine, well, I guess if he's gonna be nice, then I should be nice too, kind of thing. And good on him. You know, like, that's gonna be his mother-in-law. Like, you want to keep the peace. She certainly wants the peace. I think her beef with Rob is that he's been very disrespectful to her daughter. And so they end up going back into the room, and he set up the mattress really nicely. And she's like, thank you. That's really sweet, Rob. And her being nice is making him like kind of soften. He's still not making any eye contact. He's on his phone. And then Sophie gets on the bed with him and they're like cuddling. And the mom is like, again, really trying to be a team player. And she's like, if you guys stay like this, it's going to be a good forever. Like, it's going to be good if you stay like this. And Rob kind of smiles. So we'll see what happens with the wedding. Do you guys think that they're going to end up getting married? Do you think that Sophie's going to wake up and be like, it's time to go? I would love to know. I love when you guys comment, so please do let me know all your thoughts on these couples. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please do like if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to be posting all the recaps on 90 Day Fiance and Love is Blind, The Single Life. So if that's your tea, definitely do subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.